Hi, we're excited to invite you to be a part of something truly meaningful. Purpose-Inspired TV, a faith-based streaming channel and social media outlet focused on helping people discover and live out their God-given purpose. We're building more than just a media outlet. We're creating a like-minded community of content creators, coaches, teachers, business owners, faith leaders, and everyday people who are passionate about making a real impact, locally, nationally, and even globally. Our mission is simple but powerful. Help people in every area of life. Uplift and inspire through positive, purpose-driven, collaborate on real-world projects where there's need. Whether you create, teach, coach, or simply have a heart to serve, there's a place for you here. We believe that if you're human, you're worth helping, and together, we can reach and impact more lives than ever before. We can change lives and grow together. Our numbers are small, just like all the other platforms when they started. But as we grow, we will help you grow as a family. We will work together and pull each other up. If this sounds like something you're called to be a part of, we'd love to connect with you. We can participate on each other's shows. We can partner with each other on a cause. You can get a time slot on the channel. You can be a sponsor on the channel. Let's work together with and for a purpose. Don't just watch history, let's make it. Get inspired, Purpose-Inspired TV.
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? I pray everybody is doing well this evening. Woo, we got some hot topics today. A lot of people ask, why do Black voters stick with the Democratic Party? Maybe. The bigger question is, are we chosen based on truth or misinformation? Today, we're going to look at the history, the misinformation, the gaslighting, and why our community votes the way it does. This is about telling you who to vote for. I said that all wrong. This is not to tell you who to vote for. We're most definitely not going down that road, but we're just going to have a show of information. I think you're going to be greatly informed. At the end, you're going to be like really shocked. You're not going to believe the words that's coming out of some of these people's mouths. And that's what's going to be taught to our children. I'm about to say in the future, but like the near future. So let's get started. So the reason why did I get to this point? Having some conversation with different people or seeing different conversations online. One thing that comes up a lot, if you talk, seeing the different politics and different things that's going on, there's people that will ask, why do people of color, Black people, I don't like saying Black people, but they will say, why do people of color vote Democrat? So there are some quote unquote white people who say they're dumb for voting Democrat. Even people of color saying they're dumb for voting Democrat. And one of the biggest thing that they would say is that the Democratic Party is the racist party. The Democratic Party started the Klan. So that's part true. So I started digging into it a little bit, went down this rabbit hole, and I was very upset from the stuff that I found out. Not about the past history, it's about what's going on now and what the plans are in the future. So this discussion that we're going to have today, we're going to have to go back to the past to explain some different things, because a lot of people they're saying, like I said, we'll get to it. But I think if you could dig, you don't even have to dig that deep. A lot of stuff is like barely below the surface. It's like right there. Just minor searches. We have all this technology at our fingertips now. It's like almost instant information, instant knowledge. And yes, you do have to discern to find out the difference between the truth and lies. Yes, I do agree with that. But a lot of things that people are saying, it doesn't take much to dig and find out. So I'm gonna play this first video. That was the start of it that started getting me upset. And the more I dug, the more I got upset. I know you see, why am I getting upset over this simple stuff? It's not, I'm not upset over white folks, not any particular person like that. It's the information that people are putting out. So that's, without further delay, let's start with our first video of the evening. Oh, before I keep on saying before I get started, these videos disturb me so much. Let me say it. They disturb me so much. I had to go make a sign. I wish I could have bought one, but look, this is what I made. I made a sign that says the purple truth. And then the other side. So you're going to be seeing me flash that sign. Because, okay, let me get into it so you can see why I made this sign. Here comes the first video. Just hold your breath.
When you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party comes to mind? The Republicans or the Democrats? Most people would probably say the Democrats, but this answer is incorrect. Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long
I got starting early. We all know that's a lie, but you see the direction she's trying to take the conversation. Starting off with a lie.
history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s.
Okay. Some truth is in that. Also some lies. You see, she got a direction she's trying to take us. She's trying to take us down this dark path. So you already see the conversation is to attack the Democratic Party. But let's say that's the truth. Both parties were bad parties, both of them. But her agenda is the Republican Party is a party of the angels. All right, just pay attention.
In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories.
Not totally true. Some truth. They did not start a whole entire party just to stop slavery. Not true. Now we all know Abraham Lincoln, the major leader of the Republican Party, he had slaves and he didn't end the Civil War to free the slaves. He didn't care if the slaves were freed or not. He wanted the country back united, not freeing of the slaves. All right, let me go.
With the aim of abolishing it entirely. This effort, however, was dealt a major blow by the Supreme Court in the 1857 case, Dred Scott versus Sandford.
Okay, so she went all the way to 1965, saying they was doing that stuff back all the way in 1965. But now she went all the way back to 1857 to prove her point of something that happened in 1865. But okay.
The court ruled that slaves aren't citizens, they're property. The 7 justices who voted in favor of slavery, all Democrats. The 2 justices who dissented, both Republicans.
But guess what? Your birthright citizenship is under attack this very moment. And guess what they're going to use? This information right here. This is what they're going to use. This is what they're using to try to get rid of birthright citizenships, to get rid of citizenships of people of color. And which party is doing that right now? Is that the Democratic Party that's doing that or the Republican Party? Okay, I digress. I keep moving forward.
The slavery question was, of course, ultimately resolved by a bloody civil war. The commander-in-chief, during that war was the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves.
The man who freed the slaves. He freed the slaves in the South, not even all the slaves up in the North. So how did he free the slaves? He still didn't care to free slavery, but they make him sound like he is an angel. But when the people of color were able to vote again, when I say again, they had the rights to vote, the rights was taken away. Of course, you're going to go with the party that you believe freed you. The president of the North got the credit of freeing the slaves, and he also was going to give the free slaves 40 acres and a mule, and a lot of them did get the 40 acres and a mule. But something changed. Something happened that all of it got taken away, and it wasn't the Democratic Party that took it away.
6 days after the Confederate Army surrendered, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat, assassinated President.
He a Democrat. Wait, what? Okay, I ain't even gonna play around with that one, but people act like it's like it's your race. Your race is a Democrat. So he could go and vote Republican. He can vote Democrat. It is not your race. It's not your identity. But that's how they are bringing in division, more division by trying to, he's an evil Democrat. Man, you should be able to vote for whatever you want. You're not that identity. But anyway, so again, I keep saying that it's a picture that she is trying to paint. So your discernment should be able to catch that.
Lincoln. Lincoln's vice president, a Democrat named Andrew Johnson, assumed the presidency. But Johnson adamantly opposed Lincoln's plan to integrate the newly freed slaves into the South's economic and social order. Johnson and the Democratic Party were unified.
Well, that's one thing I didn't look up, so I should have did that. Why would Lincoln be the president, have a Democratic vice president? As a matter of fact, let's go look it up real quick. Well, I don't, it's not that major right now. But yeah, that's something I need to look up. Why would Lincoln have a Democratic vice president? So y'all will put that in the comments for me. But I'm gonna keep moving. But like I said, I've seen a couple of these videos with this lady. I got to dig some more into. I'm gonna tell you some more about them. But okay, let me try to finish this. They have a lot of 5-minute videos, and they cram a lot of stuff in there. All right, here we go.
In their opposition to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gave blacks citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave blacks the vote. All three passed only because of universal Republican support. During the era of Reconstruction, federal troops stationed in the South helped secure rights for the newly freed slaves. Hundreds of black men were elected to Southern state legislatures as Republicans, and 22 black Republicans served in the U.S. Congress by 1900. The Democrats did not elect a black man to Congress until 1935. But after Reconstruction ended, when the federal troops went home, Democrats roared back into power in the South. They quickly reestablished white supremacy across the region with measures like black codes.
Okay, so now who gave the South, the Confederate, that power? It was a compromise. So the Republicans gave them that power. Just remember, we're gonna start. I don't know if you hear it. You should hear it in the news now about states' rights. Remember that. Keep that in the back of your mind. States' rights. That's what started the war in the first place. States' rights. So the North won the war, but then in turn gave the South right back to the evil people, and they became politicians. So the people who had the plantations, the ones who had the money, now they went into politics. So the North, the Republicans gave them that. So they're acting like they don't had nothing to do with that, but they had a lot to do with that. Okay, moving on. Oh, yeah.
Laws that restricted the ability of blacks to own property and run businesses, and they imposed poll taxes and literacy tests used to subvert black citizens' right to vote. And how was all of this enforced? By terror, much of it instigated by the Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat, Nathan Bedford Forrest. As historian Eric Foner, himself a Democrat, notes, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party. President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, shared many views with the Klan. He resegregated many federal agencies and even screened the first movie ever played at the White House, the racist film, The Birth of a Nation, originally entitled The Klansman. A few decades later, the only serious congressional opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 came from Democrats. 80% of Republicans in Congress supported the bill, less than 70% of Democrats did. Democratic senators filibustered the bill for 75 days until Republicans mustered the few extra votes needed to break the logjam. And when all of their efforts to enslave blacks, keep them enslaved, and then keep them from voting had failed, the Democrats came up with a new strategy. If black people are going to vote, they might as well vote for Democrats, as President Lyndon Johnson was purported to have said about the Civil Rights Act. I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years. So now, the Democratic Party prospers on the votes of the very people it has spent much of its history oppressing. Democrats falsely claim that the Republican Party is the villain, when in reality, it's the failed policies of the Democratic Party that have kept blacks down. Massive government welfare has decimated the black family. Opposition to school choice has kept them.
Okay, she's going a whole lot of different directions. So now we're going to show you, then I call the show The Great Switch. So I got some video to show the Great Switch was during the Civil Rights movement. So what is the Great Switch? Is when the people of color switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Why would people of color switch to a party that are doing so many bad things to them? Why would they switch to a party that's opposing the civil rights? Why would they do that? Because that part of what she just said is a lie. The Democratic Party was the party that was voting and fighting for civil rights. It wasn't the Republicans. It was the Democratic Party. There was a Democratic president that signed it. So yes, both parties, most of the people, well, mostly white folks on both sides, didn't want. They was already used to people of color not having power, not having authority, not having jobs. So they was used to that. They were comfortable with that. But then they had to, people of color, we had to fight to be able to get civil rights. So that was not the happy-go-lucky Republican Party that was so happy and gave up. So I'm gonna stop talking, just show the videos. But anyway, you see her twisting. Listen to her and listening to them. The Republicans are such beautiful angels.
Trapped and failing schools.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, what else I want to say. Let me go back a little bit what she's saying here. What is she saying? I want to go a little bit further than, can I slide? Okay.
Opposition to school choice has kept them trapped and failing school.
Okay. I want to say like the welfare. So you see, the Republican Party don't believe in welfare. When I say they help some, but on the most part, they're against welfare. They're against helping people. So that's the negative tone about that. And then the school choice. You know, under states' rights, you remember, I told you, remember, keep that, remember it in the back of your mind, states' rights. When states' rights were in charge of the school system, people of color was not getting educated, or it was separate segregation, all of that. And the government had to step in to force the states to allow people of color to come to the regular schools. And as you saw, it's a particular party that is getting rid of their plans to get rid of the Board of Education so that there's no authority to make the states educate the people of color. You see what's it's like, it's been, she's saying it real low, real quiet. Right now, the Republican Party is the one that's getting rid of the Board of Education. The Board of Education did not educate. They did not put out the curriculum to teach people. The Board of Education is make sure that they are fair to all people. They provide money. They make sure people have money to go to school, make sure they can have student loans to go to college. So you got the Board of Education is doing these things to help progress everybody. But if you give it back to the certain states, you know, some certain states that's back in the South, but it could be any country, any state, but you give it back to the states, right? And the state overall, I can't even say the people, the politicians in the particular state, if they don't want the people of color educated, they're not. And who's gonna enforce them? Who's gonna do like they did to force them to allow people of color to come to school? No, the Republicans said, nah, they some good people. They'll make the right decisions. And then the school choice, about these different vouchers. So they make it sound like, yeah, the school choice is there's a public education where funding is going in, but we have another plan for private schools and the other different types of schools. So they should have a choice between, the private schools and the public schools. Okay, so we're gonna take money out of the public schools and put it over here into these private schools. This is in general. I'm talking about in general. So a lot of the money coming out of the public schools going over to the private schools. But what's happening is the people with money, a lot of times the white folks, they have the money to already be over there. So they already left, many of them, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them already left the public school, went over to that school. So they took their money and resources away from the public school, teachers and everything over there, went over to the private school. So now not much is left over in public school. Now they're passing laws to have these vouchers to even take more money out of public schools to go over to the private schools. So here's the case. That's just my example I like to give. Imagine certain schools cost $10,000. Certain people were already able to pay that because they didn't want their children going to the public schools with those regular folks. So they got the $10,000 and went over to the private school. Now the politicians like, okay, how about we give money to people? Let's call it choice. You got a choice to not go to the public school. So okay, now they was paying $10,000 to go to the private school. Now they're taking $10,000 out of the school system, giving it to the parent. Now they can go pay for that money that they was paying for. So now we said everybody get the $10,000. Okay, that sounds good. So now everybody got a choice. Everybody got $10,000. Now into the private school don't want the riffraff, quote unquote, what they would call the people. They don't want them over there in their schools. So now they raised their price to $20,000. Because some private schools, they don't have, it's private. They can let in who they want to let in. So now it's another way, another backdoor, slick way to segregate the schools again. So now that's just use imagination. Imagine the 10,000. Now they raised the price to 20,000. So now they got the parent got the 10,000 that the school is giving them, and the 10,000 they already had. Now they can afford for these other schools. Now the other students, they're only getting 10,000. They don't have enough money to pay for these schools. So now they're still excluded over here, can't go over here where the money is, and stuck over here where the money is getting drained. So that's a lot, like I said, overly overly simplified how some of it work. And I saw people in Texas, they was having a discussion about it because, you know, Elon Musk moved to Texas. And so some of the politicians are like, okay, if you're going to give the vouchers, let's put some kind of limit on it. Let's say like if the person's make $1 million a year, let's keep the voucher from them. They can afford to pay for school. No. Okay, 10 million. Can we at least don't pay, you know, don't give the money to people who make $10 million a year because they make plenty of money. They don't need to take money out of the school system to pay for their kid to go to school. They voted no. 100 million. The Republicans voted no. $1 billion. If the parent makes $1 billion, can we say that they don't deserve to get the money to send their child to a public school? They voted no. So no matter how much, you know, Elon Musk, 400 billion and climbing and lower and rising, I don't know, it keeps fluctuating with him, but multi-billionaire, they say that he still can go and apply and get the money out of the school system to go toward his voucher for his children. I think they said he got about, it's just, I don't know if it's true. I think they said he got about 8 kids. So he could buy the whole school. He could buy the whole state, but they still saying, nope, he can still get the money for his school. So that's crazy. So that's the Republicans. Let me get back. Let me finish. Let me finish her video real quick.
Politically correct policing has left Black neighborhoods defenseless against violent crime.
Politically correct. So y'all knows like when they talking about protests and everything. All right.
So when you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party should come to mind? I'm Carol Swain, professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University for Prager University.
Okay. I'm going to talk about Prager University real quick. Prager University is not a university. Prager University has a lot of videos out. Let me take her off the screen. So I tell you when I started going down this rabbit hole, because I watched some of the Prager University videos before, and I thought it was a university. They're not. It's a racist dude, I got to say, that started the university. He wanted a Republican conservative lean, anti-liberal lean of information put out. So he started Prager University. So there's a lot of these videos out there that bends and twists and make the Republican Party look like angels and make the Democratic Party look like devils. That's the agenda. But some of these videos, oh my goodness. So that's the regular videos. But I don't know if I can get to one at the end. But okay, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of information. You know, our president shut down and got rid of PBS. He said it was too liberal, too kind, too nice, too liberal, and all that. So he took the funding away. So here's this nice conservative racist university. You know what they do? They make cartoons. They make cartoons like Frederick Douglass saying it wasn't hard being a slave. Columbus saying the people enjoyed being a slave. It's best to be a slave than to be dead. But that's just a tip. That's just, you know, that's the type of information. So they got this major twist of changing history or change, you know, people earlier on was like, well, I just got to show you. Well, let me go to the next part. Let me finish. I don't want to getting ahead of myself, but I really was getting upset. So I'm gonna go to the next video. Yeah, going to the next video.
Did you know that a group of Southern Democrats once walked out of their own party to form a segregationist movement? Meet the Dixiecrats. These guys make your crazy uncle at Thanksgiving who rants about states' rights look like a moderate. In this video, we'll dive into who the Dixiecrats were, their openly racist platform, and some of the insane civil rights laws they defended. We're talking about a time when America was wrestling with some of its ugliest demons, and these guys were on the wrong side of history. So buckle up, grab your thinking cap, and let's learn about one of the most shameful chapters in American political history. Picture this. It's 1948, the Democratic National Convention. President Harry Truman, a Democrat, has just dropped a bombshell. He wants to desegregate the military. Segregation was the law of the land.
So you heard there was a Democrat in 48 that wanted to desegregate the military. That wasn't an angel Republican.
Especially in the South, Southern Democrats were outraged. They saw this as a direct attack on their way of life. So what did they do? They walked out. They formed their own party, the States' Rights Democratic Party, but everyone called them the Dixiecrats.
Did you hear that? States' rights again?
Leading the charge was Strom Thurmond, the governor of South Carolina and a hardcore segregationist. These
That most people know Strom Thurmond, how racist. That's he's in the dictionary. You look at racist, you find Strom Thurmond. He was a Democrat. So so again, the show was about the big switch. So there was a lot of races, like again, the Klan, all those things, because it was, the Democrats was from the South. So now you see that the Democratic Party is changing. Sometimes they call, I'm gonna just jump to that real quick. When you change, you will change for the better, change for the future. It's called progressive. Have you noticed that's the name? Sometimes they call it the Democratic Party, the Progressive Party, the party that changes. So here's a time in history when the party was changing. But the lady that we just saw, she's a professor, and Candace Owens and other people, they want this hidden. They don't want people to know about this, about the progression, the change they saw. They started to see some of them did. So you can see, so you take the party, they start a whole nother party. Some people in the party is like, we need to change. We need to change the way we're doing stuff. We need to change the way we people treating these black folks. We need to change a whole lot of different things. So we need to change. But other people didn't want to change. They wanted to keep it the way it was. They wanted the way it used to be again. So they started their own, another party called the Dixiecrat Party, because they wanted to keep the hate and racism and the evil things that they had planned and set up. They wanted to keep that in place. They didn't want to be progressive. They didn't want to be liberal and be happy and helping everybody. And they wanted, again, you heard that, states' rights. So if the state wanted to be racist, they got the right to be racist.
guys were the real deal when it came to opposing civil rights. They defended poll taxes and literacy tests.
So y'all know the poll taxes are having to pay to go vote, or a test. Man, y'all, here's homework. Go look up that test. Look up that test that some they made people of color to take before they could vote. Well, yeah, they took the test. Just check it out. Just check it out. And so just a little bit of nugget in here. So y'all heard the statement of grandfathered in. So this is when that statement was being used. So if you are a person of color or a white person, get ready to go vote. If you're white, let's just either one. Yeah, basically. If they would look at you. And if your grandfather was able to vote before the people of color was able to vote, you could vote. That means grandfathered in. If your grandfather could do it, that means you still can do it. If your grandfather was black, nope, you're not grandfathered in. That's that. So they had that, or then they tried the poll tax charge them, or a test that even you see be the smartest person in the world having a hard time, probably couldn't pass the test. It's not designed to be passed. And I've taken some of those tests in my day when a particular job don't want too many people. You know, they got a lot of people that needs to advance, and they need a way to make sure that everybody don't qualify to advance. So we got to give them this crazy test. And I don't know if I'm saying, I guess I don't work there anymore. I had to take one of those at my last job. That's how they changed it, but that's how I believe. I just say that's my point of view. I believe that's the way it was, because the stuff on that test, and I studied and studied and studied and studied and studied and studied and studied. First time I took it, I failed. All that studying, all that stuff I knew. Been at the company for years and years and years, and studying, and still failed the test. A lot of people failed the test over and over and over again. But thank God. The second time, I think a week later, I took it and passed. Thank you, Lord. Still other people that kept on failing that test. They just could not get past the test. I guess I'm just a little bit crazy. I think that's how I passed the test. I think differently and must. And all these smart, I'm talking about these guys. These guys that knew that company and that information inside and out. I knew enough to do a good job. These guys knew this much. They knew everything, and they kept failing the test. So it's like, it's okay. That's what it is. One of these tricky tests. And I just got to thank God I was able to pass it. All right.
Designed to keep black people from voting, they fought against the integration of schools, buses, even hospitals. Strom Thurmond gave a 24-hour filibuster in the Senate to block the Civil Rights Act.
Okay, so she was correct with the part of the Democrats blocked it for the civil rights. But what she neglected to say, there was a Dixiecrat, one that opposed what the Democrats was trying to do. So you see how the truth is being skewed. So now you got a Democratic Party that's being split. So you got a particular side that's for civil rights. You got another side that's against civil rights. So she's going to report that the side against civil rights was, the Democrats was against civil rights. So that's all she's saying. She's not talking about the other Democrats, the real quote unquote Democrats. They were fighting for civil rights. There was a Dixiecrats, there were not. But she got an agenda. That whole university has an agenda. They're trying to paint a particular picture so that you see how they can tell part truths and piece of truths and some of the truth. You know, that's how Satan works. I'm not calling them Satan. I wouldn't do that. Certain people does things for Satan, but I wouldn't say that. It's funny with this video, they keep using a black guy to represent. But anyway, let me go.
The Dixiecrats were a product of their time, but that doesn't excuse their actions. Let's talk about the Dixiecrat platform, because if you thought their actions were bad, their words were even worse. They campaigned on a platform of states' rights, which sounds nice until you realize what they meant. They were talking about the right of southern states to keep Jim Crow laws in place. Jim Crow enforced segregation and discrimination against black Americans in the South. The Dixiecrats believed the federal government had no business telling the South what to do, especially regarding race. Strom Thurmond said in 1948, "All the laws of Washington and all the bayonets of the army cannot force the Negro into our homes, our schools, our churches." They were literally saying they'd rather have a military conflict with their own government than allow black people equal rights.
Does that sound familiar? Where's my, I'm sorry, they didn't. So it doesn't happen. Stop. I'm sorry, playing around with this thing. There we go, that's the button. Did you hear that? You hear, does it sound like history is repeating itself? Does it sound like history is repeating itself? Our civil rights are being attacked. Our civil rights are being, that's a signature, signing different things away a little bit at a time. And on top of that, they keep saying states' rights.
The platform opposed federal anti-lynching laws, supported poll taxes and literacy tests, and promoted separate but equal facilities. The Dixiecrats were the political arm of Jim Crow. They took the racist ideas that were already deeply rooted in the South and gave them a national platform. The Dixiecrats had their moment in the sun in 1948, even if they didn't win the presidency. But their story doesn't end there. Many of its members stayed in Congress as Democrats and continued to fight against civil rights. Let's fast forward to the
So you said, so 1948, they had their election. Dixiecrats lost, but a lot of those racist politicians stayed in office. They were still under Democrats. There's probably nobody, if you can't vote. People of color can't vote. That's another long story, but anyway. So now, basically, they stayed in office. So, you pretty much every 4 years, they get voted in again, voted in again, voted in again. So now the Democratic Party is trying to make changes for people, but you got people in your party fighting you that continue to keep on getting voted back in. So even with their own party, they can't really even they can't get anything done. They can't move forward. So one of them is fighting. They want to continue with the Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws is just laws against people of color, and the black codes, again, laws and different things against black people can't, some, like, even to this day, we even have sundown towns, but in some cities there were people of color. You need to be off the streets. You had curfew. You couldn't be in your own town, probably on your own property after dark. The segregation. I'm just remember the cartoon, how the people of color could not go into the front door of restaurants and stuff, but Prager University would say they had a special entrance for people of color. They couldn't they couldn't drink out of the same water fountain. The people of color had their own water fountain. People of color had to sit in the back of the bus. The air conditioner was better in the back of the bus. That's the kind of stuff. That is what they're teaching our kids. That is what the plan is, to teach our kids. So the president got rid of PBS, and he's going to replace it with Prager University kids with that type of information. All right, let me go.
1950s and 60s, the civil rights movement is gaining momentum, and the federal government is finally starting to take action to dismantle Jim Crow. In 1957, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1957.
So he kind of smoothed through that, but there was a lot of blood and sweat. And I heard a lot of people, white people, why they got to protest. I mean, can't even go down that. I don't want to go down that road. Just being quiet and nice and drinking tea and crackers, slavery would still be here. So that's something like, why they protesting? Like, why did people of color get out there and march? So again, let's think about it. If I can just think about what happened here in Jacksonville or other places, sometimes the people of color, let's say the counter, they would go into a restaurant and sit down at the counter, and white people will beat them up. We had Bloody Saturday here in Jacksonville. It was a bunch of white people with the clubs. Axe Handle Sunday. What was it, Saturday? Axe Handle Saturday, Axe Handle Sunday. One of those days. But basically, the teens, just young people of color, went for a march. And the white people didn't like that. So they got together with the group and they got axe handles and beat up the peaceful protesters. So then if you ask white people, why come those black people keep on being violent with their protests? We were the ones that getting our butt kicked. We were the ones getting bit by dogs. We was the ones getting sprayed by the fire hoses from the fire department. But then if you ask white people, they was like, those black people need to stop being so violent. And they're still doing that and saying that today. All right, here we play.
It was a modest bill, mainly focused on protecting voting rights. But guess who voted against it? Most Southern Democrats, including many former Dixiecrats. Then came the big one, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This landmark legislation outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin.
So why, all the way to 1964, we finally get some kind of civil rights? And that was it was mostly people of color on the line. People of color getting shot, people of color getting hung, people of color getting beat up, people of color going missing, people of color getting arrested, people of color getting sprayed by the water hoses, people of color getting bit by dogs. All of that to just get some civil rights. It didn't even say equal rights, civil rights. So civil basic rights. So that's what we had to go through. And people are like, why are you upset about different things on the news? Because a lot of these civil rights are being slowly, one by one, being taken away. One by one. One by one.
Almost every single Southern Democrat in both the House and Senate voted against it. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 also faced overwhelming opposition from Southern Democrats, many of whom had ties to the Dixiecrat movement. They used every trick in the book to delay or obstruct civil rights legislation. During the debate over the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Southern senators launched a 57-day filibuster to try and kill the bill. Let's get specific about some of the Jim Crow laws these Dixiecrats were so keen on defending. We're talking about laws that controlled every aspect of black people's lives, all designed to keep them powerless. Let's start with interracial marriage bans. In many southern states, it was illegal for a white person to marry a black person.
Stop it right there. We have a Republican that has launched whatever the process is to overturn that. So today, right now, they're in the process of trying to overturn the rights for interracial marriage in our country. Or if they can't overturn it federally, they want to give it to the states. So that means certain states, they would have certain states it'd be legal for interracial marriage. In other states you can't. So I don't know how that's supposed to work out. I have no idea, but that's part of the plan, is to give it back to the states. Same thing you see what's happening with abortion. They want to put trackers on women. I don't know if our governor said it, but some governors want women, as soon as they find out you're pregnant, they want to track the women, find out if they left the state or not. And then when they come back, they want to make sure that they didn't get rid of the baby. That's under state rights. So you can have one state is legal, one state is illegal. They want to track their women and make sure that they did not cross the state line. That is crazy, crazy, crazy.
These laws were rooted in the racist belief that white people were superior. Then there were the poll taxes and literacy tests designed to disenfranchise black voters. Poll taxes were fees you had to pay to vote, a significant barrier for many black people living in poverty. Literacy tests were supposedly designed to test a person's ability to read and write before allowing them to vote. But in reality, they were rigged against black voters. The tests were often confusing and subjective, and white registrars had complete discretion over who passed and who failed. The Dixiecrats.
Yeah, I said that before about that test. So if you're not black, you probably don't have to take the test. So if you were, it was not basically unpassable. And then if you did, miracle, pass it. I don't think If you look it up, you can look it up, see some of those questions. I don't even think it's even passable. So pretty much everybody that took the test failed the test. So that's just another way. Yeah, we gave everybody the right to vote, but our state decided to give a test. And even like now, we got rights to vote. So now, have you noticed they've taken away a lot of, like, the drop boxes? They don't want you to have early voting. They get rid of the drop boxes. They get rid of the voting days. It's basically right now. It's like the Republican Party. They know if it's a low turnout, if it's hard, difficult for people to vote, more than likely, it shows in history that the Republicans picks up more. It benefits the Republicans better if it's hard, difficult for people to go vote. So they can't go before work, can't come out to work, no early, cut back on the early voting days, just anything to slow down and hinder the ability to vote. That's what they all for. And now you see the gerrymandering. I don't know if you know what gerrymandering is. So there's a big battle going on in Texas to rig it up so that more Republicans could be voted for. And I just saw the governor of California saying that they're going to do something similar to that to counter what Texas is doing. But instead of them just the politicians in Texas, they were just going to have a vote, because it's more. If you're watching news, what's going on in the news right now, Texas was going to redistrict the entire state. And when they redistrict the entire state, it was going to be rigged in such a way where 5 more Republicans would be voted for. And the Democrats, especially Democrats, they don't like the outspoken Democrats, people, fight for the people. They rigged it up in such a way that it's impossible for them to be voted back in again. So that's what the plan was. So the Democrats left the state. He threatened to call the troop, arrested them. The governor had all these different threats against the Democrats because they wasn't there. It wasn't enough Democrats in office to be able to stop it, but they knew if they were going to be there, their job was pretty much done already. If they already the minority, they don't have enough power to do too much changes. So now all they wanted them to be there for is to have the vote. And then when they had the vote, they redo it. At least 5 of those Democrats that was there, they're going to lose their seat. So what do they have to lose? But okay, let's not read that one. So we see how a lot of stuff get twisted and to control different outcomes. So okay, let me finish where we at. How much we got left? Just for.
Were all about separate but equal, but as we all know, separate was never equal. Black schools were underfunded, black neighborhoods were denied basic services, and black people were constantly subjected to humiliation and degradation. So, what ultimately became of the Dixiecrats? As a formal political party, they pretty much vanished after the 1948 election. Their candidate, Strom Thurmond, only won 4 states in the Electoral College, all in the Deep South. But their ideas didn't disappear. After the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Democratic Party underwent a major transformation. It went from being the party of segregation in the South to the party of civil rights. Many white Southern Democrats.
You see, there's the switch. That's the switch. So a lot of the people, the Democrats that were strongly against any change, any progression, any civil rights, they were done with the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party had changed. The Democratic Party has gotten progressive. Again, they're not going to tell you that. So you see black people online, the Democrats, that did. They do not talk about this right here, the change. They don't talk about that. And I want to say, I really don't consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a child of God. So I'd rather choose the most qualified person. But what's happening today is it's got so it's so politicized that the people put party and now a person over the people. So it's different between people fighting for people, fighting for human rights, or people fighting for the party and fighting for people. So that's two different things. So back in the day, when it was like, okay, this person is Democrat, he's fighting for he's on the right side of different things. This guy's Republican, he's fighting for the right thing. So you should bet it you could be interchangeable. Whoever is doing the right thing to benefit the people. But now it's done got to a line in the sand. So if that's person on the Democrat side, it might be something that he don't believe in or she don't believe in. He's supposed to toe the Democratic line and vote for it anyway, and vice versa. Republicans, there could be something that they, even we know, I believe that big, beautiful bill that's hurting a whole lot of millions of people. I believe there's a lot of Republicans over there that in the past, they would not have voted for it. And then some of them walk around here saying they sorry, they apologize. They would not have voted for it, but they had to toe the political line and vote for it, or they would have been out of office. But see, so now it's hard to go back and forth between either party because now it's political. So now you can't trust them. That's why I'm sorry. Some people you can't trust them if they can't buck the system. You should be, yeah, you could be a Democrat, and every once in a while you agree with what the Republicans are saying. You could be a Republican, and every once in a while you cross the aisle and agree with what the Democrats are saying. That's the way it should be. But if we don't have that, it's hard to be, it's hard to know what a person feels. Let me go back.
Especially those who had once been Dixiecrats, started switching parties, becoming Republicans.
Did you hear that? I'm gonna rewind.
Disappeared.
They need to go by that far.
After the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
After the Civil Rights Act of 64 and 65, all those extremely racist politicians was fed up with the Democratic Party. They did not like the progression. They did not like what the Democratic Party was doing for the people of color and pretty much all people. They didn't like that. They had the control before, now they don't have the control. So what do? They need to get with people that's alike, that's like them. Birds of a feather flock together. So they need to go to a place where they felt comfortable with the racism, with the bigotry. They need a place to go, and they want to fight against civil rights. They want to fight against it. So where do you do it at? You got to switch parties. So that's what they did. So they keep talking about the Klan and all the racist people in the Democratic Party. They switched party. They went to the Republican Party. So that black lady refused to say that. Other people refused to say that. But that's what happened.
And the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Democratic Party underwent a major transformation.
Major transformation. They don't want to talk about it.
It went from being the party of segregation in the South to the party of civil rights. Many white Southern Democrats, especially those who had once been Dixiecrats, started switching parties, becoming Republicans. This shift was part of what's now known as the Southern Strategy.
Okay, that's a new word, Southern Strategy. Remember that class, Southern Strategy.
Move by the Republican Party to appeal to white Southern voters angry about civil rights progress. The Republicans adopted many of the Dixiecrats' states' rights arguments. It's a complicated history, but it helps explain why the political landscape of the South shifted so dramatically in the latter half of the 20th century.
So now watching the news, watching politicians and stuff, which party is always screaming states' rights, states' rights. We got to have states' rights. So if stuff that was passed and benefiting everybody, we want to take the benefits away, we want to give it to the state. Which party is doing that? That's the Republican Party. Don't that sound familiar? So that was the idea from the Dixiecrats. So the Dixiecrats had that idea that they wanted to keep their states races. They moved over to the Republican Party. And so they're talking the same language. You can clearly see the path. There's a line from the Democratic Party was saying that. Now the Republican Party is saying that. The same people move from one party to the other party. So that same idea is over in the Republican Party now. So people can't keep on saying the Democrat Party this, the Democrat Party that. It was a switch. I think I'm gonna stop saying that. I said it enough times for tonight. The great switch.
The Dixiecrats may be long gone, but their legacy lives on in the ongoing battles over voting rights, racial equality, and the role of the federal government. The Dixiecrats were a product of a dark chapter in American history. They represented the fierce resistance to racial equality that sadly continues to this day. Studying history, even the ugly parts, is crucial. It helps us understand how we got to where we are today and, hopefully, avoid repeating the same mistakes. Strom Thurmond, the face of the Dixiecrats, fathered a daughter with a 16-year-old black maid when he was 22. If you found this video insightful, please give it a like.
He just crammed that in there real quick. So Strom Thurmond, as much as he hated people of color, his son impregnated a worker. So that means Strom Thurmond has a black grandchild and maybe even more people of color in his family. that was funny. So I'm like, oh man, it's already been an hour. So now I guess it's a lot. I'm gonna jump over here real quick. I want to talk about the Southern strategy. That was, you remember, they just mentioned this word about the Southern strategy. Don't let me explain it. Let them explain it.
How did President Nixon utilize the Southern strategy? Have you ever wondered how President Richard Nixon managed to shift the political landscape in the South? His approach, known as the Southern strategy, played a key role in this transformation. Nixon's Southern strategy was a carefully planned political tactic aimed at winning over white Southern voters. These voters felt disconnected from the Democratic Party, especially as it embraced civil rights and racial integration in the 1960s. As the Democratic Party pushed for civil rights.
Okay, I'm gonna pause. So y'all keeping up with me. So how this thing keep doing that, man? Anyway, so the Republicans have a strategy, Southern strategy. So how do we get the hateful, racist people on our side? They were Democrats, but now we need to get those racist people on our side. That's the Southern strategy. We got to let them think that all black people are evil. The Democrats are evil. Democrats are devil. I just heard a preacher saying that 2 days ago. He preaches that at his church services, that all Democrats are devils and they demon filled. So that's the strategy, is to demonize Democrats or anybody that doesn't agree with everything in the Republican Party. That's a strategy, and y'all know good and well that's still a strategy today. This very moment, even DC right now, DC is not at as bad as what the people are saying, but we have the military on the streets of DC right now because we are still working, filling with the Southern strategy. We got to make white folks afraid of, right now, the brown folks and black folks. We got to keep the fear. We got to make them afraid. And I've done experience that, being in buildings, just you don't have to do anything. Don't have to do anything wrong just being in skin color. And some people are afraid. They about to jump out of their skin because they just looked at you, especially a black man. Whoa, my goodness. I've been working in buildings with the company van, the company hat on, company clothes on, uniform on. And I just like be walking through there, and every once I see a white woman, well, not all the time, I would say not all the time, but a few times I just turn, and I don't think I look threatening, but I get, like I said, just the skin color. Be walking around, and then as soon as they see me, like what? It's like, I think that's gonna happen to me at least. I think at least 5 times. It might happen more than that, but at least 5 times. I didn't do anything other than just was there in the wrong skin. All right, let me get back to. What is going on? I'm sorry. Please bear with me. Here we go.
Legislation. Many white Southerners viewed these changes as a threat to their social and political power. Nixon sought to tap into these feelings by addressing their concerns without openly endorsing segregation. Instead, he used coded language and themes that resonated with their racial anxieties. His campaign focused on issues like law and order.
Law and order. That sounds familiar.
States' rights.
State strikes again.
And opposition to forced busing for school desegregation.
And it was against desegregation. What is the representation of desegregation in our time? DEI. You see history repeating itself.
These topics signaled to white Southern voters that Nixon understood their frustrations with the civil rights movement and federal involvement, all while avoiding explicit racist language. Nixon's advisors, including Harry S. Dent Sr. and Senator Strom Thurmond, played a crucial role in shaping this strategy. They ensured that the message was tailored to appeal to Southern sensibilities. In practice, Nixon's strategy.
Did you just catch a name? Just by happening to catch a name. So Nixon is Republican. We know this Republican. We heard his name, Strom Thurmond. Was he a Republican? Or was he a Dixiecrat? Who is he trying to help get elected? He's trying to get elected Democrats? Nope, surely not.
Involved slowing down integration efforts and promising to uphold conservative social values. This approach attracted a coalition of white Southern voters who had traditionally supported the Democratic Party. Role in this transformation. Nixon's Southern strategy was a carefully planned political tactic aimed at winning over white Southern voters. These voters felt disconnected from the Democratic Party, especially as it embraced civil rights and racial integration in the 1960s. As the Democratic Party pushed for civil rights legislation, many white Southerners viewed these changes as a threat to their social and political power. Nixon sought to tap into these feelings by addressing their concerns without openly endorsing segregation. Instead, he used coded language and themes that resonated with their racial anxieties. His campaign focused on issues like law and order, states' rights, and opposition to forced busing for school desegregation. These topics signaled to white Southern voters that Nixon understood their frustrations with the civil rights movement and federal.
So I wanted, I keep saying it. You said you just brought up school again. Those Democrats and Republicans, whites, did not want to go to school with people of color. So they've been fighting that fight ever since then. So now Republicans, not Democrats, are in full control. So one of the first things that they do is, number one, is get rid of the Department of Education. And then number two, they call it, a lot of different states, they call it school choice. It's not really school choice. It's a way for those white folks that didn't want their kids to go to school. They just figured out a way to get the white folks away from the black folks. That's all it is. It's just another reverse segregation again.
Involvement, all while avoiding explicit racist language. Nixon's advisors, including Harry S. Dent Sr. and Senator Strom Thurmond, played a crucial role in shaping this strategy. They ensured that the message was tailored to appeal to Southern sensibilities. In practice, Nixon's strategy involved slowing down integration efforts and promising to uphold conservative social values. This approach attracted a coalition of white Southern voters who had traditionally supported the Democratic Party. The success of Nixon's Southern strategy became evident in the 1968 presidential election when he won key Southern states. This victory marked a significant shift in American politics, as the South transitioned from being a Democratic stronghold to a region increasingly dominated by the Republican Party.
So even look at the times. In 1964, 1965, the Democrats didn't have, well, before, yeah, the Democrats was in office. So now we have civil rights. And who gave the country civil rights? The Democratic Party. So here in 1968, what's the repayment? How do we thank the country for getting civil rights? Is to get the Southerns to vote for Republican to fight against the civil rights. So here's the beginning with Nixon is the first president on the Republican side that's 100% against the civil, totally, against the civil rights. So now you see a lot of those quote unquote lifelong Democrats, lifelong racist Democrats. They gave up the D, pick up the R. Now they're Republican. They on the Republican side. So you can clearly see it in history when it's happening. It's not that long ago. Those people are still alive. They probably could tell you. Some people can tell you, I was a Democrat on this day and I turned to Republican on this day. And same thing with black folks. Yeah, I was Republican over here. Then we got all our civil rights. I got rid of my Republican, my R. I switched over to the Democratic Party. It's right there in front of us. It's right there. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. But you still have these people out there not telling, what's going on, what happened.
From the perspective of the Democratic Party, Nixon's Southern strategy is often seen as a manipulation of racial divisions to weaken the party's commitment to civil rights and social justice.
Mm-hmm.
This strategy not only reshaped party loyalties, but also entrenched racial polarization in American politics. It marked the beginning of a period where the Republican Party increasingly aligned itself with conservative, often racially coded appeals.
Okay.
The long-term effects of this political realignment were profound. The Democratic Party struggled to maintain its influence in the South for decades, which hindered its ability to advance progressive policies in the region. The Southern strategy contributed to a more polarized political environment, where party identity became closely linked to regional and racial identities.
So again, I'm going to keep beating a dead horse. So you see, before the 68, before the mid-60s, most of the South whites were Democrats. Most of the South people of color, most of the time you said they couldn't even vote. But then when they was finally able to vote, they was Republicans for a short period of time. So they said Martin Luther King, yes, Martin Luther King was a Republican because he thought that was the party that was going to help with the civil rights. So you got the Republicans that's not, and then you got half the Democrat that's not, but they still was able to pass civil rights. And why come it was so violent? Look how much opposition that you got. Look how much opposition they had to go up against. And then we got people today, we're not going to vote. And people done died and all this stuff to be able to give us a right to vote. and we won't even honor them by voting. Whatever party you still want to vote for, the Republicans. So now you have the Republicans, so black Republicans. Oh, no, the racist party is the Democrat Party. We just went step by step showing you who's. Yes, they probably it's racist on both parties, but official, kind of like majority of the people, the official people that say they Klan, they say that they are in separationist, separatist groups, they're Republicans. The people who don't like black folks are in the Republican Party. That's facts. So the racists moved over to the Republican Party, and that's been their strategy. So that's how the South switched over to Republican. You can drive around now, what kind of flags you see, and which party which president they're showing that they support. 100%. It's right there in front of you.
Today, Democrats often reflected on this history as a cautionary tale about how racial issues can be exploited for political gain. This complex legacy complicates efforts to build broad, inclusive coalitions in the South and beyond. Understanding Nixon's Southern strategy helps us grasp the historical context of current political dynamics and the ongoing challenges faced by the Democratic Party in the South.
So we understand now. So it shouldn't be anybody that was here today should be able to talk to anybody and explain what happened. Removed from the studio. I'm sorry, doing some little button around. So what y'all think? What y'all think? Removed from studio. So I want to go back to Prager University real quick. Y'all just got to see this. Just a second. Sorry. I don't like to keep on saying Okay, so I was telling you about Prager University. They have a lot of money, millions upon millions of dollars poured into them every year by what type of people. I want to show you what they want to do with the kids, though. Again, like I said, Prager University is not a college. It's not a university, but I think it fools people for them to think it's a university. So they start watching it and say, hey, this got to be good information because it's a university. Okay, let me go here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep on saying I'm sorry. All this stuff that comes to my mind, I want to show you. I know this is how I can find out. Right here. Right there. 1 second, please. 1 second. Well, more than a second. Click here. I don't know why I didn't save it. Give me a moment. Pause. Hold on. Share. In a second now. I'm working it out. I am working it out. Go over here. Okay. Right here. Hit that button right there. Boom. Give me a couple of seconds. X out of there. Come back to my audience. Where y'all at? Y'all right there. I'm gonna go back to some of the comments. Well, is it ready? Is it ready? Is it order up? Order up. Order up. Desktop. Documents. Downloads. There she is. All right, here we go. Let me push this button. This will make you go like, what? What? Get my sign ready. Got to get my sign ready. I need to get a better one than this. I'm going to get me a good sign. Here we go. Y'all, listen to this. Come on, computer, you can do it.
And now for
You
a
can
brief
do it.
history of slavery. Here's the first thing you need to know. Slavery was not invented by white people. It did not start in 1619 when the first.
Okay. As you see, as we just getting started, she's defending white people over slavery. That's the whole point of the video. Instead of we getting to a point in history and life where, hey, this happened, let's move forward. They rather spend the time saying it's not their fault or other people. So they got to pointing the fingers. We didn't do nothing wrong. They was already doing it. You know, so how can you bring healing? How can you get somewhere when that's how you start? So this is Prager University. Our president wants this information on PBS. He doesn't want it. He does not want the information that was teaching the kids on PBS, but he wants this on PBS. Just listen to this nonsense.
Slaves came to Jamestown. It existed before then. It did not start in 1492 when Columbus discovered the New World. In fact, when the intrepid explorer landed in the Bahamas, the native Taino tribe hoped that he would help them defeat their aggressive neighbors, the Caribs. The Caribs enslaved the Taino and, on occasion, served them for dinner. Slavery existed in.
So you see how, you know, we know the history of all the stuff that Columbus did and how many, all those multiple people who died from Columbus showing up there. We're not going to talk about that. But we're going to say, yeah, some of those people that was already there, yeah, they killed them and they ate people. So let's talk about them. But Columbus was an angel. We're not going to talk about Columbus.
Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The word slave actually comes from the Slavs of Eastern Europe. Millions of them, all white by the way, were captured and enslaved by Muslims in the 9th century and later by the Ottoman Turks. Slavery existed when the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean and most of Europe from the 1st through the 5th centuries. Slavery existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century BC.
I want to stop. One thing the ministries like to say, what does that have to do with the price of tea in England? So we have slavery in the United States. White folks benefited from the slavery. Black folks were abused by the slavery system that we had. It was evil. It was evil. But Prager University and Candace Owens are justifying it by saying other people have done it over the years. All right.
BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural. The slave master model was just how the world operated in the Great.
See, again, it just happens. That's just the way it was. So she's bringing up all these quotes, all these history people. So you see the message. She's trying to justify it or downplay it. So that's how they're trying to teach the kids. So now in the future, the kids get this kind of education, they're going to be, and slavery wasn't all that bad. It was nothing, you know, nothing major. That's what they're trying to do. So, all right.
Philosopher's Day. Slavery existed during the time of the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago.
We don't
As
care
far back
about
as
5,000
we
years
can go
ago.
in human history, we find slavery. As renowned historian John Steele Gordon notes from time immemorial, slaves were a major item of commerce. As much as a third of the population of the ancient world was enslaved.
Who
Here's the
cares?
second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery.
You see, see how she kissing out the white folks. White folks was the first to end slavery. That is not true. Put it up there again. So, how do you know? This is what you do. You go over here to the computer and click on who, when. Let me see. Who. I don't know. You can type it in several ways. Who ended? Oh, that's it. Who ended slavery? 3 words. Who ended slavery? No, I'm sorry. She said the country. So we're talking about a country. Let's go right here. What country? I'm putting in who ended slavery first. Where's that one I saw the other day? I shouldn't. So we are going way back to 1772. No, I seen it before that. There was a Portuguese. I saw some of the Portuguese. I see one that's saying and England, but then they started using it again. Okay, so now it says on March 16, 1792, Denmark became the first country to issue a decree to abolish their slave trade. But that's not saying they abolished slavery. But it shows what, I'm sorry, let me get back to video. Let me pick up for what she's saying. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. But she's saying white people, and that could be a lot.
In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of.
Okay, she said 1833. 1833. And that's still saying back in 17, what did I just say? In 1792, Denmark. But what she's trying to do, she's considering England as the white folks. You see how she did that? She got to go jump to England. But this I want to go to. Right. I'm sorry. I'm reading something. I should have brought this up. So France did it back in 1795. And let me see. Well, long story short, England, it was done well before 1833. But one thing I want to bring up, one fact I want to bring up is, why can I? Oh, I should have just started at the top. There it is right there. Way back, France in 1315, the first country to fully outlaw slavery was France in 1315. 1315. So that's in 13. then it's 14, then it's 15, then it's 17, then it's 18. Look at all that time that went by that she overlooked. But it said later it was used in the colonies. The first country to abolish the punishment slavery was Spain, 1542. And she said 1833. What about that in 15? So then Japan got rid of it 1590. But self, I guess they quote unquote, you were in slavery when you were during the war. Here we go. Haiti, Haiti, the first country to self-liberate from slavery, was a former French colony, Haiti. As a result of their revolution, 1791 to 1804, they abolished slavery in 1804. So that's the first free of slavery on this continent. So she overlooks all of those, but she picked a white country that she would like to talk about. And so she just said that's the stuff that they plan on teaching the kids. That is a lie.
The world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery in her many colonies. Then, of course, came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution. After centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died during the Civil War. Now, am I saying that this makes white people better?
White folks did it. White folks. So it's just unbelievable to me that, it's, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. But you see, my main point is to see the direction that they're trying to take it, trying to take. Again, they're starting with our kids. That's what they're doing. That's what they plan on teaching our kids.
Than anyone else? Of course not. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth, and the truth is that human history is complicated. No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless.
So she's saying, you remember when it was some protest, it was people out there marching. No, there might have been a parade. It was a parade, I think it was. I don't even think it was protesting. It was a parade. And they said racist, what you call it? Anyway, they saw the people out there and they ran them down. And they knew that they was racist. But the president came out and said it was good people on both sides. Now, good people on both sides, and it was bad people on both sides. This is what she's saying here. Regardless of skin color, no one stands guiltless. So the several hundred years of slavery in our country, she is still saying that we are guilty for being slaves all that time. That is what she's saying. She's saying we should be, nobody is innocent in that situation. So yeah, y'all were slaves all this time. So no, you were not innocent. You just as guilty as we are. But y'all had the whips, y'all had the guns, y'all had the chains. But we are guilty. So that's in her head. That's how she feels. And that's what this company, Prager University, that's how they feel. The first black lady, all the black people that work there, that's how they feel. That is people of color's fault. That's why y'all were slaves. And you should get over it.
Yet today we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous tribes of North.
What has that got to do with the United States having slaves? Nothing. So it's kind of like, yeah, we got slaves for 300-400 years. So if we try to still talk about it, you need to talk about those people down, the indigenous people, they ate people. Yeah, you need to look at that and start looking at us. Yeah. That, you know how stupid this sounds? Do you know how stupid this sounds?
North and South America, or the heinous actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or Japanese empires, to name.
What does that have to do with the United States and their slaves? Nothing. But all they're trying to do is make them feel better. Because people probably did. Throughout history, people did worse stuff than us. No.
Just a few. Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon. And like all persistent lies, this lie spawns a...
When people talk about slavery, do they... It's a white phenomenon. What? So that's the argument she's saying. That's the argument that she chose, that company decide is everybody is lying and saying that white America, I guess she's saying, I can't even, let me back up. I'm still struggling with what that lie was. Let me back up. Back up, buddy. Let me hear it again. If y'all understand what she's saying.
No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless.
Okay. The slaves are guilty for being slaves. I got you. So it's not guiltless. Okay. We were wrong. So that's why they beat us, hung us, skinned us.
Yet today we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous tribes of North and South America, or the heinous actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or...
Any of those in the United States. Is any of those people in the United States doing stuff to white folks or the slaves? Any of them. Any of them. She just blowing hot air up your butt.
Japanese empires, to name just a few. Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon.
So I still can't even understand the argument. Cause y'all, so her defense is bad things happen throughout history. All the Muslims did this bad thing. The Chinese, the Mongols did all this bad things. The indigenous down in South America, they did bad things. So people of color are bad because we say something about what the white folks did to the black folks in America. That's the defense that she's got right here. That's their defense. You know, them jokers are stretching big time to come up with that defense. If you're a slave, you're not concerned with what happened 100 years, 200, whatever many. That has nothing to do with you. And if you experience being a slave, that's got nothing to do with you. We could talk about so basically saying the people in the Holocaust, and when the people, they talk about, you know, what they went through, she's saying they should be quiet because other people harm was brought to them also. So the Holocaust people don't talk about what the Nazis did to them. Don't bring that up because everybody is guilty. Don't even bring it. Don't bring it what the Nazis did, because there's other countries, you know, the Chinese killed a bunch of people. These people killed a bunch of people. So as long as they kill all this bunch of people, don't say nothing about the Nazis. That's kind of like what I understand what she's saying. So basically, people of color that have ancestors that went through slavery, we shouldn't say nothing about it because worse things happen to other people in other countries. Man, I think people done lost their mind.
And like all persistent lies, this lie spawns a bunch of other lies. On social media,
What? I'm trying to say, what? Can y'all, anybody tell what lie that she's saying that people say? What's the lie? If people of color were enslaved for 200, 300, 400 years by white people, majority, well, 99.99% white people, and if you say that white people had slaves, she's saying that we lie. Where's the lie? Okay, let's see. And she said that one lie, that which is not a lie. So now she's saying that not a lie led to these other lies. So let's see what these other lies are.
I come across extraordinary depictions about how Africans lived like pharaohs before Europeans came and laid waste to their parents.
So look at her, she's lying. We know that you can look in the Bible. So she believes everybody in the Bible is white, which the Bible is majority about black people is in the Bible. And there were some wealthy black people in the Bible. There were some black kingdoms in the Bible and outside the Bible. So there are plenty of history of people of color and Africans that has great kingdoms. But she is going to tell her lie and say, no, that's not what happened. I mean, that's not history.
Paradise. I wish any of this were true, but it's not. It's a fantasy. The truth is that Africans were sold into slavery by other black Africans. And
what is you see? Okay, so the first part she was saying was that there's no kingdoms and they didn't have these riches, and so we're talking about the riches and kingdoms and stuff. Then she goes straight into selling slaves. Those two separate things. You know what gaslighting is? Or bait and switch. That's this bull that's going on right here. Again, the reason I'm getting all uptight, this is stuff that they want to put in our school system and teach the kids. That's why I'm getting upset. So yes, people in Africa had kingdoms, had money. It's plenty of history to tell you that. She just said it was a lie, and I guess that means it's supposed to go away. So that means her lie is really, that is the truth. So now she could jump into selling slaves. Let's see.
in many cases, sold for items as trivial as gin and mirrors. Whites didn't go.
So now she's saying black folks, Africans, sold slaves for trinkets. So she's basically trying to say how stupid and ignorant they were. So no, that's so you may, I doubt it. Probably it's probably so, what you call it, such a small percentage of somebody trading putting somebody to slavery for a bottle of whiskey. It was millions of people that they say millions of people were sold into slavery. Thousands of ships travel back and forth. So she's going to talk about maybe if we'd have no proof of that, if that one person out of millions, she decided to talk about one person out of millions and say he sold it for some liquor or something. So she's trying to say millions of people sold into slavery over stupid stuff. You can't sell anything if you don't have a buyer. You can't sell nothing if you don't have a buyer. It ain't like the Africans came over to America with a shipload of people to sell. That's not how it went. And imagine a lot of places probably didn't have guns and stuff. So so she's telling me that there was never a time when white people showed up with guns and just rounded up people, stealing people. She's telling me. So I guess that never happened. And somebody did a good analogy. I'm not a slave. My people are not slaves. My people are prisoners of war. They were stolen. They was prisoners of war many times. So yes, it was some that some people call it soul. And she said, where does the word slave come from? She said Slavia, as a white. So why are we not talking about them? What did she go in any of that history of when the white folks were enslaved? No, she didn't talk about that. But that's where the word came from. And then I'm gonna jump real quick about the Bible. They say slavery is in the Bible, but a lot of times that was servant. So yeah, they took things out and twisted everything. So people still, the Bible is evil Bible. But if you go read what the Bible says, you can really take that word slave. If you look at the original word, you can also put the word servant. So a slave is like something like, most time with Americans, I call them Americans, the people was in America that you're a slave for life. The Bible gives guidelines on how to treat the slave, in which I prefer, with our knowledge and our understanding, you have to put the word servant. In majority of places, you have to put the word servant. So basically, when these people, well, sometimes, well, like let's go with women real quick. Women needed a man to take care of them, or a son. So we have the stories of, the one lady, she had a son, or women praying for a son. If they didn't have a husband, they needed a son. Or in some cases, the husband's brother had to marry. They tried to set up a way for the woman to still be taken care of. She did not have it the way women have it today. So, but a lot of people that didn't have, so what they could do was dedicate their life or be a servant for someone. And it was like for 6 years. It's not even a lifetime. It was 6 years that they were serving. So a slave, you're there, your whole life. Look at when Israel was in Egypt, yeah, they were slaves for life. That's a slave. But when I talk, when the Bible was giving instructions about the slave, they were talking about servants. There's the guidelines of them being a servant. Basically, it was a way you either go starve to death or go find somebody to go work with. You sign a contract and stay with them for 6 years. And after the 6th year, the 7th year, you're going to be released. They didn't put that in the Bible. The slave Bible, they made sure that wasn't in there. So they worked for 6 years, free on Jubilee. You heard of Jubilee? That's what it was, Jubilee, be free. But some people, they was doing so good living with the person, because sometimes they was living in the same house or living in the same compound, if you call it a compound, living with the person, spending their time. And then you can see a lot of them, they were married, their servants, So it's not like a slave situation that we have in our mind. It was a servant. So a lot of times they spent, their time was up. They got the rules and guidelines. Okay, they can leave. If a man came there single, he can leave single. If he came there married, they got rules for him being married. He got rules for him if he having children. It was all different things. That wasn't like a slave. It was like a servant. So she don't want to talk about that. But here in America, he was a slave for life and for generations. Not only was you a slave, whatever you was born, so they had the doggone farms of getting women impregnated. They had the men to impregnate women to make sure they had more kids. The more kids you have, the more slaves you got, more money you got. And for life. I digress. Let me get back. I'm gonna wrap it up.
Go into the interior and round up the natives. They waited on the coast for their black partners to bring them black bodies. The stark reality.
So she's saying, white folks, we ain't do nothing. Oh, they just stayed on the boat and waited for the black folks to bring the black folks. We just sat, they was just peaceful and just stayed on the boat. They ain't do nothing. Just stayed on the boat. Just stayed on the boat. They didn't leave the boat. They ain't hurt nobody. They didn't go out there. They didn't kill nobody. They didn't go and kill the chief and take everybody in the whole village. They didn't do none of that. They didn't do none of that. They just stayed on the ship You know, it was a cruise ship. They just stayed on the ship until they brought them to them. So that's how it went, according to her.
Is that our lives had very little value to our ancestors. Here's the third thing you need to know. If you think slavery is a relic of the past, you're wrong. There are some 700,000 slaves in Africa today, right?
Okay, let me finish this. Okay, so she's saying today, I don't know when this was filmed, but let's say 20 something. 20, like we just say today, 2025. She's saying there's 700,000 slaves in Africa. Take note. She said in Africa.
Now, that's the lowest estimate that I could find. Other sources say there are many more. For context, that's almost twice as many slaves as were ever brought to the United States.
Okay. See what she just did there? Did y'all catch it? She said that the entire continent, that's a continent, multiple countries, a lot of different countries, has over 700,000 slaves. So she compared that continent to little old United States. So you know the numbers are going to be different, right? You know her numbers are going to come out different. So yeah, if you do it that way, yes. So the amount of slaves that came to America is half of, so she said 700,000, so 350 some thousand slaves came to America. Well, not America, United States. So let's do that. Let's do the truth is compare continent with continent. How many slaves were brought to North? There it is right there. So she's saying 750,000, but that was, let me look at the number again. So 12.5 million. 12.5 million came from Africa to North America. See how you skew the numbers. So now if you just say United States, that's 2 times more. But if you say continent to continent, 12.5 million people were brought over here. And if you're trying to compare your 12.5 million that came to North America, 700,000 in the whole entire continent, that's vastly different. So you just twisted numbers around to make white folks look good again. Woo. Okay, that's the stuff that we got to catch, and we need to teach our kids how to catch this stuff. But she's saying everybody lying, but it sounds like to me everything coming out of her mouth is a lie.
Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor, these are the conditions that currently exist within the same sub-Saharan region where the transatlantic slave trade originated.
Okay, what's that got to do with us? If she's trying to paint a picture, those things are there, but they are also businesses. There's white folks, there's corporations, there is successful, there's the stock exchange and stock market, there's millionaires, there's billionaires, there's churches, there are houses, people going to work every day, there are cities, all that stuff is over there. But she just said all those bad things over there. She's painting, that whitewashing. We got to make Africa look so bad. And look at the map. Look how bad the southern part of Africa is. And you see that the blue area, they call that the Middle East, North Africa or the Middle East. That's where the light-skinned people are, not the black folks. So we got to let people know all the bad people in the red part of the country, and all they do is kill each other. They got all this bad stuff happening down there. Everything's good up north. I can't believe a black woman is doing this.
African bodies are being sold today like they were sold then. And no, they are not being purchased by any country of white men. In fact, slavery.
So we are good. All our white men are good because we are not buying those black Africans. But I guarantee you probably got something to do with the sex trafficking. Underage women, kids. Plenty of that in the news.
By any traditional definition, is exclusively practiced today within non-white countries. But we hear almost nothing about that. Just like we hear nothing about how slavery was universal.
Why would we even, who would have that conversation? What's the point of having a conversation of what we in this country, what's going on in our country, and how people are treated in our country, how people are mistreated in our country? Why are we going to talk about what's going on in other countries? We can't even fix everything that's here in our own backyard, and we can be worried about what's going on somewhere else. Why were we having that conversation? Distractions. We need you to talk about something else. We don't want the white folks to feel bad. That's why they're going in race and history, taking stuff down, making sure stuff is not being taught, and videos like this to make sure that the truth is not being taught.
Until good people in Europe and America ended it 2 centuries ago.
Good people in Europe and America. So a civil war here in America forced them to give it up, but millions of people died. But she decided to call them good people that decided to free the slaves. They didn't do nothing wrong. Nothing at all was wrong.
Why? Because our so-called leaders, black and white, wouldn't profit from it. Black victimhood is nothing if not profitable. It elects politicians and funds racial grievance groups.
So if black people complaining about what they've been doing wrong, according to her, if that strategy really worked, black people, you make a whole lot of money off of complaining about slavery. You get a whole lot of politicians elected by complaining about slavery. Well, how come we got a Republican in the White House? We got the Republicans in the House. We got Republicans in the Senate. We got Republicans doing whatever the heck they want to do. But she's saying that the whining and the complaining black folks, they the ones that with the power and control. I got to give it my another lie, but it sounds good. I think that's supposed to be that's supposed to be Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. So all those and the money, how much money that the big beautiful bill just gives to all those rich conservative rich folks, but she trying to reverse it. She's trying to flip it. She ain't fooling me, but she probably can fool our kids.
And if Black Americans began to view themselves as partners in the American dream, if we embrace.
So, partners in the American dream. Let me see what she say.
The patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal.
When they wrote all men are created equal, they were only talking about white men that own land. Most definitely was not talking about the slaves. So now they want the people of color, you need to be patriotic. You need to forget about all the bad things that our country has done to you in the past. You need to forget about all the bad things that people are doing to you today. You need to be patriotic. Just like when we had the first 4th of July. You know, the 4th of July, the country celebrating the freedom. So how in the world a doggone man in chains, in bondage, getting whipped every day, he's supposed to stop and celebrate on the 4th of July to be patriotic because his country is free, but he wasn't. Huh? So that's what she's saying. He's saying those slaves and people that went through stuff need to let all that go, stop complaining, and be more patriotic, and just get on board. Whatever the president say, we need to get on board and fall in line and stop complaining. Oh.
The patriotic spirit that is our real heritage.
So why all these people with those Confederate flags, you know, those Confederate flags that was part of the unaliving of many of them, African Americans, they said that's their heritage. They said that hate is their heritage. Wanting all people of color out of their country is their heritage. Don't want no immigrants here. That's their heritage. So that's the heritage that she's talking about.
And the race hustlers would soon be out of business.
What? A race hustler. A race hustler. So she said anybody, a race hustler. What's the opposite of someone that's trying to look out for people? That's her.
And who wants that? I'm Candace Owens, author of Blackout for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video.
Okay, so I guess y'all see, there are a lot of, I couldn't find the cartoon. I know I've been up here for 2 hours. You go, I'm gonna do it again. I don't know if I'm gonna be Lil Joe versus Prager University. They get like, I think I saw someone, they get like $57 million. We're talking about I gave them $57 million. I don't know if they're getting it yearly, but a whole lot of rich folks is pouring a whole lot of money into Prager University, which is not a university. And they have the Prager University for Kids, when they are basically justifying everything that happened bad to people of color. They got a reason around it. And they got a lot of our political, our heroes in their videos saying some crazy racist stuff. Y'all, you so I'm gonna start talking more. And I guess in the past, I knew some of it, but it was really not a big deal. But now it's a big deal because that's what our government is planning on replacing. That's what they want to disinformate, like the stuff that she just said. That's the stuff that they want to teach our kids going forward. And some of our people already been taught that, and they believe that. That's crazy too. A lot of the stuff that she was saying, even for her, she believes that stuff that she said. She's got that skew. So there's a lot of people of color. You see them in the red hats. They've been skewed. I don't know if that's a right word, skewed. But anyway, they feel that we should let it go, don't talk about it. But I was like, so all these millions of people that went through all this, we just supposed to forget it. But the system was built upon racism. The system is still here. It just got to look different. Like you saw, like the elections, there's certain words that you say. And like I said, when they saying that the states' rights, I did a show a couple of weeks ago called "Is Democrat the New N-Word?" So instead of calling a person N-word, some people call them Democrats, or they might call them liberal. Or I just heard people they got too much empathy. We got too much empathy. We shouldn't be caring about people. It'll be easier to kick out the immigrants. So when they finish kicking out immigrants, who's next? They're already looking at ways to get rid of birthright citizenship. They're working on that. So how can you tell the person that's continuing to be attacked to jump on board and be patriotic? What do you say about these people who did? Let's say that the dude, just like an example, the guy that opened up I think he had 4 locations, Trump Burger. He opened up 4 Trump Burger locations, got flags everywhere, got Trump stuff everywhere. Everything is named, positive toward Trump and the Republicans and negative against the Democrats. He's that, what she say, why come they can't be patriotic? We couldn't get no more patriotic than him. He was all in. What? All in. So what did his patriotic and dedication to the president get him? Got him deported. Well, I don't know if he deported yet. No, he got arrested and went to the detention center. So now you're saying that a lot of the systems that was built and set up back in the day, black code, we still have sundown towns. A lot of this racist stuff is still here, but we're supposed to close our eyes to it and not see it. And then a message to people. There's some people, they say they blind to color. You don't need to be friends with them. You don't need to be around them. Anybody tell you that they're blind to color, one, they lying, or 2, that they can get you in trouble. I'm gonna break that down. Let's say you got a white friend that says they don't see color. So they don't see it. So now you can walk into a place, you're getting treated badly, or they are being racist towards, doing a certain thing towards you. But since they said they don't see it, they're not going to see it. So then you get back home, you're upset from the way that you was treated. They think you're crazy. They don't see it. They don't see what you go through. So even got people of color that say they don't see color. So they prefer to do the same thing. I know. Well, yeah, I know that they serve that white couple, and they serve that white couple, and they serve that white couple, and they not serving us. But the dishwasher must have broke down in the back, or they must know we like fried chicken, and it might be a chicken shortage. They start coming all different excuses, or trying to I don't see. We've been sitting here for 3 hours, and everybody's been served. Oh no, I don't see. I didn't see it. I didn't notice it. That's not good. So I don't think that's not especially if you're in a racial relationship and the person says they don't see it, that's not a good response. They need to see it. They need to see what you go through. People of color need to see what other people of color go through. They don't fall for that. I don't see color. I'm not saying it's a difference between being racist and treating people wrong because of their color. But there's another total difference between I don't see it. I don't have no empathy. I have no concerns on what you have to go through. I prefer to close my eyes and not see it. So now you are all alone. You are looking crazy because somebody just did something nasty to you. They said something out the way, and then the other person, I don't see color. So that person that keep on saying they don't see color, they're gonna come up with a justification to defend the other person and not defend the person who that was offended. So that I don't see color, that don't fly. So, okay, I think I done talked so much that my throat is dry. I think I see some comments on the side. I thank y'all for your comments. So I want to get into it again and talk more about more of these videos that Prager University is putting out. Hope you learned something about the Democrat and Republican Party. Like I said, again, I'd rather be neutral and vote for the best candidate. I'm not a party, so some people get upset. Some people are so ingrained. They're on the team Democrat or team Republican, or really not even team Republicans anymore, is team MAGA. So I have no connections. Like, you talk bad about Biden, okay, he out of office. All right. Even when he was in office. All right. talk bad about Harris. All right, I'm not going to die. It ain't in the word. That they try to bring up the other people that keep on throwing their names out. Those are the key words, the trigger words. Don't bother me. They're not in office. We're moving forward right now. I look at what's happening right now. Who's in office right now? Who cares about it? The past is the past. We right here. All right. Again, thank you for tuning in. Thank y'all for sticking around this long. Thank you for your comments. Especially, I think Miss Elena Ricks, I think you win the awards for the most comments tonight. I need to bring you in one night. If you don't mind, you can join in the conversation. All right. Everybody else, what we got? Jen, thank you for your comments. And what we got? Sharice, thank you for your comments. Thank y'all. There's a lot of comments. Crystal, what's up? That's my sister in Carolina. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Again, I think this got to be my longest live. Y'all, next time, please continue it. Thank you for joining in, but if you don't mind, share it. Thank you for the comments. Stay tuned. I try to put out my next conversations, my subjects a little bit early. If y'all got a subject you would like for us to talk about, we could do it. Okay. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Lil Joe out.